Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another battle to the death for you. Today, we have the Ontario Rat Model 2 in D2 Steel versus the Steel Will Mini Intrigue. These guys both have big brothers. 90% of what I'm going to say would also apply to those, to the bigger ones. So I just want to get that out of the way right at first. Why I'm doing this is because you guys asked for it, and I don't know why I didn't think of it myself. I've had both of these for a little bit now, and I like them both, and they all are about the same price, $38 versus $39. Both almost exactly the same size, both kind of designed to be a smaller EDC knife, and they both have some history around here. The R2D2, one of my highest viewed videos, actually, I compared it to another Steel Will model, the Mini Cut Jack, and I declared it a tie, which is a pretty good job because both of these knives are great. And in the end, I just couldn't decide. I basically said it's up to you. The Steel Will Intrigue, just very recently, I compared it to the Spyderco Delica, which everyone raves about, and it quite soundly defeated the Spyderco Delica, in my opinion. So both have pretty good history. Both have pretty good records going into here. The R2D2, as I said before, is a smaller version of the Rat Model 1, and the Rat Model 1 came out in D2 quite a while ago. It took quite a while for them to come around with the D2 version of the R2D2. We were all clamoring for it. We all really, really wanted it. I own two of them. I have this one, and I also have a carbon fiber version, and they are just really great EDC knives. They're awesome. The Intrigue kind of came out of nowhere at SHOT Show, and then they just were immediately available, and it's also a great kind of EDC, sort of slimmer thought EDC knife compared to the Cut Jack. They just wanted to make something roughly the same size but a bit slimmer in your pocket, a bit easier to carry around. So that's why the Intrigue was born. And there's going to be some fancy pants M390 versions made in Italy, maybe even with carbon fiber handles, and then those will be kind of more gentlemanly, but still a pleasant surprise that came out of nowhere. So I'm very excited to get on with this test. Let's start out with some specs. We'll start out with the R2D2. We have an overall length of 7 inches. Again, these are all half-inch squares you're looking at here to give you some size reference. You have a blade length of dead on 3 inches. Very nice thin slicey blade, just 0.09 on your blade thickness, which is really nice. Both blades on both these, by the way, are very thin behind the edge. And you have a weight of 2.75 ounces, so pretty light, but not as light as the Intrigue. The Steel Will Intrigue is just 2.2 ounces. Now, are you going to notice half an ounce in your daily carry? That depends on how well calibrated your pocket is, I guess. You have an overall length of 7.5 inches, so about half an inch longer. You have a blade length of 3¼ inches, so you get just another quarter inch of blade, and you have a blade thickness of 0.12, so a little bit thicker, but still very acceptably thin for this kind of EDC sort of style knife. And as I said, a weight of 2.2 ounces. Handle thickness on both these, by the way, right about 0.4. I think this is like 0.44. This is like 0.42. So very, very similar in that. Didn't mean to skip over that stat, but I did. So I've corrected myself now. Now, here's how it's going to go. If you guys have not watched one of these before, we have 7 categories. We have aesthetics, quality, blade, ergonomics, carry, deployment, and value. I'm going to assign a winner in each one of them, and then at the end, we're just going to add up the scores. All right, let's go. Aesthetically, neither of these are really lookers, in my opinion. I do like the kind of sleekness of this, but it's kind of ruined by the, just having this FRN patterned handle. The R2D2 is nothing offensive about its looks, but it's not particularly imaginative in the aesthetics department, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be more of a EDC kind of, I'm not going to say beater knife, but a real user. And it comes in a lot more color combinations. This just comes in this gray with the blue, which I think looks great. Obviously, that's why I got that color. The R2D2 comes in 4 different handle colors. It's got this, it's got a tan, it's got a green, it's got a black, and you can get it in a DLC coated blade or without a DLC coated blade. it just comes in a lot more options, so you can really tune it to your own aesthetic preferences, because this is obviously a very objective category. So I have to give the win to the R2D2, just because you can pick what you want, where you only get two choices with the Intrigue. Now, in quality, this one I'm going to put a bit of a caveat on, because I'm judging these two particular knives. The Steel Will feels very expensive in the hand. Not expensive, but it feels like it's worth even more than it is. And it just feels really good in quality. Steel Will does a great job with it. The packaging is great. I've had no issues with the blade centering. It was perfect out of the box. I don't believe I've even torn this one apart, to be honest with you. But yeah, just quality, no issues whatsoever. I have had issues with Steel Wills in the past, but only with one, with this cut jack. And since then, I've had two other of the Steel Wills from China with the D2, and I've had no issues whatsoever. The R2D2, I've had several Ontario rats in the D2. I've had this one. I've had the carbon one I showed before. I've had the full-size rat model 1 in D2. And I didn't have any issues with 2 out of 3 of them, but this is the one that I had. I just have a little bit of an issue with. It's not a big deal. I do get just a tick of lock stick every now and then, usually when it sits for a long time. And this knife does sit for a long time. This is the knife that resides in my little EDC pack. So it just doesn't get picked up for a while. And when I first pick it up and start using it, I get a little bit of lock stick. The first, 4 or 5 times I open it, and then it goes away. But it does have some blade centering issues. It's not horrible, but it is a bit off to the left there, as you can see. And I've not been able to correct that. So, yeah, in quality, I have to give the win to the Steel Will Intrigue. It just feels more expensive. That's down to that. Like, this, just quality-wise, this just feels like a little bit more quality piece than the R2D2 does. Now, in the blade, this was not one I had to think about much. I don't really have any issues with the blade on the Intrigue. It's still very slicey for what it is, for this kind of slim sort of blade profile. But this is just a great slicer. I love the blade shape. It's just a great EDC sort of blade shape. It's just your basic drop point with some nice flats, some nice belly. It's just a well thought out blade design. And Ontario, they do this thing with Randall's adventure training. Like, this is a knife that was co-designed with them. This is a knife that was just designed to actually do work, and it really, you can tell that with that blade shape. You can just tell that. Where the Intrigue, you can do a lot of work with this, don't get me wrong, but it was, you just kind of feel like this blade was also maybe some aesthetics were thought about. And I don't think anybody put any thought into that with the R2D2. It's just a user good, awesome blade shape. They're both, I have the steel quality, I put them all exactly the same. Both Ontario and Steel Will do a great job with their D2. I can't say blade steel one is better than the other, but just blade shape, I think this one is a lot better. Now, in ergonomics, this one was a close one for me because I have large size hands with skinny fingers, and both of them are not exactly ideal for me ergonomically, but they both work well enough. But the R2D2 works just a little bit better. I mean, if you look at the Intrigue, I have more room. I've got a little bit, sticking out there when I grab onto it, where on the R2D2 I have virtually none. They do have enough. The jimping on them is about the same. It's both well placed. It's well placed on both of them. It works well. Yes, the Intrigue is a bit grippier with the textured FRN, where the texturing on this it doesn't do a whole lot. Neither of them have any hot spots or anything, but it's just the thinness of the handle on the Intrigue. I just feel like I'm wrapping my fingers around a lot more, where on the R2D2, even though it's a bit shorter in the handle, it does feel like it fills my hand just a bit better, and it gives me a bit more confidence. So I have to give the win on ergos to the R2D2. Now, in the carry, the Intrigue is slimmer. The Intrigue carries a little bit deeper, but it has two flaws where, first of all, this FRN is a bit grippy. I wish they'd just put a flat disc under here on either side, put their logo or something. like Spyderco does, so that it slides in and out of the pocket a bit easier. It is a bit grippy getting in and out of your pocket. And this flipper tab, while I will admit it does not stick out very much, they did a great job designing it to get it out of the way so it's not beating the hell out of everything in your pocket. It is a bit sharp, and occasionally you catch your little pinky on there or something like that. Where in the R2D2, it doesn't carry as deep. It isn't as light, but it's half an ounce. It doesn't really matter. But other than that, there's just no, I have no issues carrying this. It slides in and out of the pocket super easy. There's no tabs sticking out. I can get past it in my pocket just a little bit easier than I can that, because I'm always trying to consciously avoid catching my pinky on that tab. So carry-wise, I have to give a somewhat narrow win to the R2D2. Now, in deployment, they both run on phosphor bronze washers. The R2D2 has these little Teflon paper thin things in addition to that, but they both deploy almost exactly the same as far as smoothness, and they both these companies nailed the detent. They're both great. They're both, every time they rock it right out. It just depends on which you like. If you like flippers or you like the thumb studs. So I'm gonna have to call this a tie, because they're, as far as smoothness and ease of deployment, I'd put them identical. It's just which you prefer. Do you prefer a flipper or do you prefer the thumb studs? It's just down to that. That's it. Now, in value, this is probably the tightest one. This is the most important category, and I almost just called it a tie, but I do have to give, just by the narrowest, by a hair's breadth, of the Steel Will. And it's the same things I mentioned in the quality category. Steel Will does a better job with the packaging. They do, just some little things just feel a bit higher quality with it. You're getting almost identical materials in both of them, so there's no advantage there. But it's just little things that just make you feel like you're getting a bit more bang for your buck with the Intrigue. So I have to say, very, very slight win to the Intrigue. If I had no issues with this, I probably would call it a tie. But I did have some issues with it, and value-wise, I don't know. I just gotta. It's just it's very, very slight to the Steel Will. So, what is our conclusion? Well, the score was not that close, I have to say. The score was 4-2 with one tie in favor of the R2D2. And yeah, this is one. Sometimes I disagree with my own scores. This is not one of those times. I would pick the R2D2. I have no issues with the Intrigue. I own this one. I'm gonna keep it. I do carry it a fair bit, but the R2D2 is just a better overall EDC. I'm not gonna say it's a better knife, but it's a better overall user EDC knife. It's just that blade shape is just really hard to overcome. That blade shape is just great, and there's nothing horribly objectionable about it. I mean, yeah, I had that one little quality issue, but it is a $39 knife or $38 knife, and I'm sure Ontario would take care of it if I wanted him to. But I think it was a one-off because, again, this is the carbon fiber one, but that's the only difference is it's got the carbon fiber scales. I had no issues with it. I've never had any issues with any other rats. So I think this is just one that snuck by that's got some like tiny little issues. It's not even worth bothering to send it back or anything about. And it's just the shape, the design, and it's really all about that blade. That blade is just a great blade shape. It's a great user. It's a great steel, and it's a great value. So, here is your winner, the Rat Model 2 in D2 steel, the R2D2. Excellent knife. They're available again. They kind of sold out quick when they first came out, and now they're back again. So, go grab yourself one of these. Great knife. Hope you guys have enjoyed this and learned a little bit. I've been Brian. Have a good one.